for about 15 seconds, then we'll start.
Okay.
Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
We are live, episode 327 of the Better on Draft podcast. My name is Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. I truly appreciate it on this beautiful Friday night. It is Great American Beer Fest weekend. We hope you are having a blast out there. We know Dan is. If you guys are following us on all of our social medias, that's at Better on Draft on everything. You can see everything that he's been doing, including hanging out with Jim and Sam over at Dogfish Head and Sam Adams. My name is Ken. I am drinking an Italian Pilsner from Oddside Ales in my nice little mini boot. Wendy, what do you got over there?
I have got a Melon Ball Double Juicy IPA from Saugatuck Brewing.
Perfect. And with us, we have two guests in our studio. We'll start with Gina. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what you're doing. And of course, if you're drinking something, tell us what you're drinking.
Well, I'm drinking a lot. It's been a very long week. My name is Gina Sassano. I'm the head of global partnerships for the Tasting Alliance and the beer division. And there have been a wonderful array of beers to choose from this week. And so I chose a purple haze from Abita Brewing, which is in New Orleans. It's kind of a lager brewed with some raspberries. And then I'm drinking it's a agave and guava sour ale from a brewery called Martin House Brewing, which is in Texas. And I did grab one more, but it's not cold yet. But it's a 17% Monstro Imperial Stout from False Idol, which is also in Texas.
If you ever get a chance, Gina, Martin House over in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, that place has amazing and such a wide variety. They actually had a mustard beer when I went there last time, and I didn't like it, but I can appreciate it. It was very, very sour. We'll say that.
Well, last night, just going to throw one on top of that, they had a pickle beer. And I'm not going to lie, it was phenomenal. I was shocked how much I liked it, but I chose to take the agave sour for a nice mix between a lager, a stout, and a sour for this podcast.
I think you're going to start seeing a little bit more dill and pickle flavor in beers in the upcoming years. But we also have a cohort with you. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes.
Tell us what you do and, of course, what you're drinking.
Hello, I'm Amanda Blue, president of the Tasting Alliance. I am bringing Santa Monica Brew Works because it's right down the street from my house, and it is a 310 blonde.
We thank you so much for joining us. We truly appreciate it. I'm getting a lot of feedback, I believe, on Amanda's, so I'm going to mute to see. Nope, it wasn't Amanda. We're doing this live. Let's see if it was Gina. There we go. Gina, it is you. So I'm just going to mute and unmute you when you're ready to chat. Don't worry, Amanda, you're perfectly fine. We do this live. It's crazy all the time.
I love it when Gina's muted. Always a good time.
No. We scared her off. Folks, if you're not watching live, of course, you could join us live Fridays on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook at Better on Draft. But we'll start with Amanda here for this first question. Give us a little bit of history about the organization, the Tasting Alliance, and of course, all the competitions that you guys do throughout the year.
Sure. So my father, Anthony Dias Blue, was a very well-known spirits and wine and restaurant critic. And he was the editor for Bon Appetit magazine for many years as the spirits and wine guy. He started the wine competition in San Francisco in 1980. It's one of the oldest and largest in the country. That takes place in San Francisco. We're having that coming up in December. We started the spirits competition sort of before spirits were back in fashion, when tequila was just thought of as something you sort of get drunk with on shots in your dorm room. In 2000, mixology and cocktails scene started coming up, and my dad, Andy Blue, started the spirits competition, and it is the largest and most prestigious blind evaluation competition in the world for spirits. Then we started one in New York. We started a competition in Singapore, and we have started our ready to drink competition last year. And then we started our beer competition. So we now cover all facets of the Bev Alc world, and very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I want to ask just a curiosity question, to say the least. Obviously, when you go into a bar, you have different levels of liquor. Do you get a lot of maybe the lower quality $5 chuck alcohol companies that come in just to see how they manage against some of the bigger brands?
We do, because our competition is a medal-based system, meaning if the $2 chuck comes in and it's fantastic, it can still medal very high and still go into the finals for the best in class category. I mean, we had things in our spirits competition. We had Jello shots that made it to the final round for novelty products. So it depends on the category and it depends on the quality. And it's they're evaluated. Each product in the first stage is evaluated on its own, not in comparison with anything else. So I would say if there was a stellar $2 chuck Cabernet and it got a double gold, it probably would not fare well in the best of class round, but it could still medal all right.
Besides bragging rights, like what are the benefits that people receive when they enter these beverages into any of your competitions?
Well, as you know, the marketplace is extremely crowded for consumers. So it's a bellwether for consumers to know. It's a way to help them decide. It's a way to help them be educated. And for the brands, it's also a way for them to be, be able to be picked out. We have a website called tastingalliance.com where you can also shop for some of our winners. So they have the benefit of that. They have the benefit of being featured on our website as well. We are partnered with a company called Reserve Bar, which is an e-commerce company that deals primarily in spirits, but is moving into the beer and RTD space with a company called Get Stocked. And so they are going to be uploading our winners through our competitions to their websites for purchase. So it's a way for them to get brands that want to get noticed, to get purchased, and to get known outside of their direct local market. We also have events that we do all over the country. We just had our first Top Shelf event where we brought beers, spirits, and wines to Las Vegas, double gold winners. And we had 1,000 people coming through and testing them. And I'm sure that those beers would not have been exposed to that kind of crowd if we did not bring them there.
Now, Gina, you're in Denver for GABF. Is there a festival that gets tied to these competitions on top of it, or are they kind of like standalone? And then you have your separate, as Amanda said, with the Las Vegas Best in Show not competition, but Best in Show festival.
Right. So, as we grow, the idea is going to definitely be to have beer as a standalone. Right now, since it's in its infancy, obviously it's a lot smaller than, our sister competitions that have been, the go-to for many decades in the industry. But, I'm at the GABF. I've been listening to people speak, and multiple gatherings, panel discussions have really been discussing how beer is losing ground. And I think several factors are contributing to the decline in draft and canned beer sales currently. And the takeaway that I got from this is that kind of the issue right now with beer is four-tiered. It seems to be a generational issue. As far as I could tell, the second is a health issue. There appears to be a third issue related to COVID recovery, and then the fourth issue is related to the decline in draft. And so what's interesting is that I've been to all the different events, and where I'm starting to come out in really starting to place our competition and the map is, although the conversations are centered around what breweries want to see in order to help one another in the industry as a whole, I didn't really hear any like specific solutions. And here's where we want to come in to help. we want to partner with the breweries by supporting them, and we believe in our position. We believe in the company, and we want to partner with our brewers and be in business with people who want to be in business with us. And I'm trying to do that here. And really, quite honestly, I think the customers, need a change in the brewing scene, and I think we are providing them that service. And my hope is to explain why. And I've been doing that this week, and I think essentially we need to adapt to the changing beer market and create new partnerships and develop new ideas and be disruptors and be critical thinkers, and don't be afraid to try something new. And that's where I'm finding some difficulties with the brewery industry, is that I know people need new ideas, and yet I don't feel that they're as willing to adopt some new ideas. And quite honestly, for a successful economic strategy, it hinges on adapting to these changing tides. So we have essentially an established system with these other competitions, and we're simply integrating beer into our wine and spirit service modus operandi. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And we'll talk more, but I'll talk more about what I think generationally is happening, health factors, draft, COVID recovery, but for right now, especially how we're going to bring beer into in front of people that are lacking, like, let's say, the Gen Z generation. We have eyeballs in the spirits and wine world, and there's nothing wrong with starting the conversation there and then introducing these new flavors to the people who we really need to be servicing to. So I will talk more about that and what we're doing strategically in marketing. But yes, for right now, it is small. So we are bringing beer with us to our trade shows and to our food festivals.
So, just out of curiosity, what is it that makes your competition different than some of the established beer competitions that are already out there?
Sure. And that's one of the things that I'm also trying to do my best in explaining our story. As Amanda talked about, I think a really big, a lot of feedback that I've heard from, and I've been meeting with, the head brewers here. I've been meeting with brewers who are also judging this week at the GABF. And what a lot of people are seeing is that things are just very metal oriented, which obviously we've not changed. Our focus is more of a consumer facing event. So a lot what's happening today in the marketplace is it's a metal oriented approach, and also one in which you only win one award, right? So you could have 5,000 entries, but there's only one clear gold and there's only one clear bronze. And then, say, the World Cup, there's 10,000 entries. What I'm trying to tell people is this is not in place of another competition. I'm more seeing this as a supplemental competition, one in which I would think all state guilds would want to be a part of, because in our eyes, we're not taking away from other competition. What we're doing is we are trying to help those states, help those breweries in those states with more consumer facing events. So the main difference between us and another competition is, like Amanda was saying earlier, we do these trade shows. We have a huge consumer tasting event called Top Chef, which will be in Miami this year. We have presence at these food festivals. We have very large booths at Tales of the Cocktail, Bar Coven. And for our trade show last year, for instance, I took some of our best in show beers, brought them to our booth, and they'd sent me one case each. We poured a 0.5 ounce pour because of Nevada law. You could only have, a small pour, along with their marketing material, which was a coaster with a QR code. So there's not a lot of other competitions that are actually making a difference after you get a medal.
I wanted to say that we try to differentiate ourselves by having people on our panel that are buyers and decision makers.
Yeah.
So one of our head judges is Mary Guever, who is the head of Gina, you got to mute yourself again. Head of buying beer for Whole Foods. And we have members of the panel that are from Walmart and Albertsons. So they have all agreed that some of our, top winners will get onboarded into their system. Total Wine, all this stuff. So we're not just trying to slap a label on your bottle. We're trying to help you get to market. We're trying to get you in front of people. We also have our last year, our results were published in Forbes, which is a very major publication. Doesn't usually cover a ton of beer, but our big winners were announced in that publication. So our goal is not just to evaluate the spirits in that moment. It's for us to be a support system all the way through and help get these products that are probably smaller in front of buyers and consumers.
Awesome. So, how do you decide who the judges are? Where do they come from?
They come from all over. They come from breweries. One of our judges is at New Belgium. Some of the judges are also GABF judges. We're looking at podcast hosts, beer journalists, hello, Kenneth. We're looking at, like I said, buyers. We're looking at the more technical beer experts, the cicerones. We are assembling our panel much like we do our spirits and wine panel, which is these are considered the experts in their field, widely considered the experts in their field. They've got books published, or they're the correspondent for major beer publications, or they are in charge of buying for the whole retail outlet, or something like that. We want the decision makers up there so that they can really make a difference and take these brands farther than just the competition floor.
Yeah, like one meeting that I had this week was with a writer, Beth Devon, who is wonderful. She actually just published a book, The Beer Lover's Guide to Ciders. That's these are kind of the people that we are gathering for our team, and especially some of the best names in the business. I'm waiting on word for 2 other people who are known in the industry for being at the top. That's ideally, just like Amanda was saying, similar to how we curate our judging panel for our spirits and wine competition.
So the whole process is that it's a blind tasting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they kind of get evaluated, and they can be awarded a medal, mm-hmm. and then the top are put in for their categories.
Yeah, so the first day we'll be evaluating all the products that are submitted. This is obviously a trade-only event, so it'll just be the beer judges in a room. Everything will have been processed before in our warehouse in San Francisco, and everything will be brought out completely blind. No information will be given except for the barest minimum of information that's needed for the judges to be able to evaluate. They will evaluate each product on their own through our iPad technology so that they're not biased by each other. They'll put in their tasting notes for each of the products, and they'll decide what they want it to be, either a gold, a silver, or a bronze, or a no metal. So they put that into their iPad software. The other judges on the panel also do the same thing. And then the panel coordinator will come over and say, okay, well, we have, 6 golds. It's all unanimous. That means that this is a double gold product. And that she will ask, do you think that this is worthy of going into a finals round, into the next round towards best in class wheat beer, best in class IPA, blah, blah, blah. And they confer together and decide whether it should go to the next level. If it does go to the next level, then it's judged by every single judge in the room. And it's judged based on being the best in that category.
But so then you've got your double golds, and then you still can have multiple golds, silvers, bronzes. So it is not just, like I was saying earlier, not just one gold, or one silver. Additionally, I think to note that, we ask for about 4 beers to be sent. I know some other competitions ask for maybe 12, depending on which category. So we do ask for about 4 beers. Everything, as we discussed, is blind tasting. But we also do have a can art competition for anyone who is interested in helping and and just sort of advertising their artists, which is a huge part of beer drinking, as you know. So that is part of our competition. If you do want to join the can art competition, you could just even send one empty can. It doesn't even have to be full.
And we do that for our spirits and our wine as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, what is the criteria that you guys are using to award the medals? Like, what makes something medal worthy?
So we're just using, the BJCP guidelines, and again, these are things that we sit and we talk with the judges about before. So the appearance and the flavor and the mouthful and the aroma is pretty much the standard guideline. We have not steered away from that since that's the industry standard. We have a meeting with all of our judges before the competition begins, making sure everyone is on the same page and following the same guidelines. And essentially, that's our guide for this competition.
They're also using their lens. Let's say if they, the buyer for Total Wine knows what the trends are, or Whole Foods knows what the trends are, and what is very marketable these times. They're going to be using that lens as well to evaluate.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because yesterday I was at the Dogfish Brewbound Talk, and there was a panel, and they were talking about one thing that brewers need to get creative with, and there's a number of things that I actually would like to talk about what I think they should get creative with, but that it really doesn't matter what that brewer thinks is best. You're trying to appeal to your drinker. You're trying to appeal to your consumer. So one of the panels is talking about, how do you learn more about your consumer and what kind of flavors are they looking for? And that's an important factor that we are also, in discussion with the people who are joining us for judging, because it shouldn't be just about that specific beer. We also want to know what people like. That's going to help our brewers. Thinking about what's happening today, on average, there's 20%, less drinkers with the Gen Z and millennial world. I mean, the baby boomers were some of the biggest drinkers, and those generations drink far less than we did, and mainly because there's an increased awareness of the dangers and effects of alcohol and the risk of their health and consciousness of lifestyle. And so, they're the reflections of their attitudes towards health and wellness. It's something that a lot of brewers need to think about, because I think what's happening is what is it that how are we going to get beer in front of them, and how are we going to get them to drink beer? In their view, some of the old things didn't work before, going in to meet a brewer from like decades ago. So I think the brewing industry has to strategically understand how to capture the attention of this TikTok generation and get creative with their marketing strategies. And a part of what we do as a company is we engage our users through these giveaways. And a lot of what they talked about at this panel yesterday were these on-premise activation events and sales in the beer industry. And for that, essentially, the business cash flow is down. Social media savvy partners are growing. That's up. So those are the types of things that are going to grab the attention of the younger audience. And, with over 40,000 followers that we have on our social media channels, I think we do capture the intention of the young people and old people with some of our giveaways and some famous brands and people that we have. So, it's not necessarily anymore about what the brewer liked. It's how are we going to bring in this new generation? And if that means that we have to start the conversation with wine or spirits, that's okay. There's a lot of distributors out there that do start the conversation with wine, and then they segue into beer. That is something that we are actually very good at, and I think a very a strong point of recognition that we are going to be combining it with the spirits and the wine. So those eyeballs will see and have access to a category maybe they would never think of before. And I know, Amanda is aware of, she could speak better to, some recent giveaways that we had for a couple of spirits winners. And I remember hearing that some very old ladies were involved online and wanting to get involved in the giveaway because they liked that actor. So, those are the things that are going to capture the youth and people that you may not be normally in your category of sales,
So there was a couple of things that you had mentioned earlier that you wanted to touch on. Some of the things that you think that we need to focus on in the beer industry. Do you want to go back and touch on those?
Sure. Well, I think, like I said before, I think health plays a real factor into decision making these days. As I drink my beer happily, and as I'm going to the GABF to drink more beer, excuse me. So there's definitely a reason why seltzers and RTDs are popular today. People care about what goes into their products, into their bodies. One thing that I talked to a woman about yesterday was her gluten-free beer. As we know, like 1% of the population is celiac, but there's 30% of the population which is gluten intolerant. So we're really seeing an increase in gluten-free and alcohol-free beers. But what else can we do to encourage the beer consumption? And that's what I kept hearing during all of these panels. Like I said before, millennials and Gen Z, they're not drinking. Overall revenue in brew pubs, I think, the younger generations come in to eat food instead of drinking the beer. So what other things bring people into that brewery? And so socializing, I think for kids specifically, sharing things with friends, they're important for them. So they enjoy the tangible things, such as the different glass shapes and colors and flavors to talk about. So I think we need to tell story. We need to know how to fit these new consumers into that space. And like I said before, combining our story with our spirits, I think that's just one of the ways that we can engage people and they have the opportunity to experience new flavors. So health, I think these days is a pretty large factor in which people, and there's this sort of belief that beer is heavy, beer is wheat, beer is this. Not necessarily true. There's wonderfully light, refreshing, a variety of flavors in the beer world. So I know so many friends who, prefer cocktail. I'm like, you have no idea what you're missing. You would love this sour. You would love this beer that's brewed with raspberries on top, So these are, a couple things I noticed. Another big conversation, which obviously this doesn't really fit us for our competition standards, is sort of they had a lot of conversation about draft being an existential crisis. And they talked a lot about just breweries investing more in their draft systems and just turning the tide in draft. And obviously, combined with post-pandemic sales and the draft system is more profitable, and a lot of brewers can't maintain canning and packaging systems, so they really need to maintain these draft lines. This doesn't affect us with our competition, but a lot of brewers I heard were struggling with out-of-state sales with draft. They're at a loss post-pandemic draft sales, and so they were focusing on things that do work for them, which are seasonals and Oktoberfest, and that brewers need to take advantage of these sessions and these seasonals. And so that was something that I heard from brewers. And then obviously a lot of them talked about COVID recovery. There are thousands of kegs that were not drunk, and now things are tempered by how much to buy and how much to sell, and people got stuck. And I think people are a little worried on how to move forward without losing money. So I think I heard from a lot of people that it was hard for them to come out of this COVID rut, and the lagging contributed to the slow growth of the current state of the brewery today. So those were just a few things that I listened to, and again, I just came with, we need to get creative with our strategies and our marketing, and there shouldn't be, people should want to try something new. It's just that this is a story that they've never really heard before, and so it's just not knowing. They don't quite understand how we can partner. So like I said in the beginning, I kept hearing all of these issues, and they're like, we need a solution. And then I came in, I was like, this is what we do. This is what we're doing as a company. I would love to partner with you, because I'm not looking to just taste your beer. We would love you to come with us and grow together. Those are just a few things that, I noted as really top issues for brewers and breweries across the country.
I wrote down 6 questions from that answer, so I'm hoping I can get through some of them. But the first thing I want to ask, as the drinking moderation changes for a lot of these organizations, do these industries feel a concern with the legalization of marijuana, as well as the production? Like here, I'm in Ypsilanti, right outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan, where magic mushrooms are decriminalized. I can't say legal because it's not legal, but they're decriminalized. As we look into alternative forms of euphoria, we'll say, are they entering into these markets that are removing money from those markets?
Personally, I think yes. It was not talked about during some of my sessions, but you're going to take an edible. Actually, one person did mention something of the sort in through conversation. You're going to take an edible, and you will want to drink less. You will have psilocybin in your system. How much do you really want to drink? Where do you put yourself? What kind of environment do you want to be in? So in terms of the edible, personally, I think, yes, again, this is maybe where some of our lower ABV content may be helpful, but also having the right space for people to feel comfortable to be doing all of the things.
I can say that as a stepmother to a 20-year-old, that they definitely are not drinking in the same way that we were in high school, in college, 21-year-old. And they know about the hangover. They know about the health. So we've seen a huge increase in no and low categories. So big ones in spirits, big ones in wine, and also happening in the beer world as well. People still like the taste of it. They just don't know that they want to have the hangover the next day. So yeah, I think that, as a business, I've thought about it. Are we scared? Are people going to just stop drinking altogether? What does this mean for our business? I don't see that happening, but I do think that the market is shrinking. I mean, during COVID, the ready to drinks that came out, there was so many. People couldn't drink on premise, so they were drinking at home. So everybody and their mom was creating a ready to drink wine, spirit, beer, malt, and got it off the ground, and sales were good. And then everything opened back up, and the funding capital dried up, and people don't realize how much money you need in marketing to create a brand, a spirits, beer, or wine brand that can successfully scale. And a lot of these places are shutting down. So not only is there a health situation, there's also like the economy is just shrinking, I think.
And just to piggyback on Amanda, as women, and one thing we haven't said is we are an all-women run company from top to bottom. One thing that I've read a lot about after COVID is the effects of how many women are drinking so much more than men. Period. The number of increase in women drinking, and I think that had a lot.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, I think that had a lot to do with, women staying at home with their kids. And, we drink anyway. We've been drinking before that. So, but, that has turned a little bit. I know personally with a number of friends, there's been many statements. I need to go back to pre-pandemic drinking. I need to stop drinking as much as we were during the pandemic. So yeah, I do think health concerns are a huge contributing factor to the decline in drinking. But hell no, people will never stop drinking. There's always going to be a market for it. And so the question is, who are we marketing to and how do we do it better? And that's the stuff that I've been trying to talk to people this week because they want change. So try something new,
Well, Amanda, you said the ready to drink market is kind of not collapsing on itself, but kind of folding in a little bit. And you guys started your RTD competition last year. From what I've seen personally, and of course, this is in the bubble of Michigan, we're a huge boating state. We've got so many lakes, of course, the Great Lakes. You can't, you don't bring glass onto a boat, so you got to bring cans. You can't bring liquor, so you got to bring pre-mixed RTDs. So it's kind of a match made in heaven for us here in Michigan. But are you seeing that more nationally that the places are shuttering or not making these RTDs anymore? Like, I guess, what am I missing that you're seeing that I'm not?
I would just say if you're looking for a local brewery that's made an RTD, I think that's going to be fine. It's these companies that have been pouring money into scaling and getting into new markets and simply can't compete with, I would say White Claw is not very popular anymore, at least where I live. I would say Truly is sort of, but like people are drinking way different stuff than that. They're drinking Onda, which is like a seltzer. They're drinking less malt-based stuff, honestly. People realize that it doesn't taste as good. They're wanting to drink stuff that it has premium ingredients, that has real ingredients. So I think it's about the consumer becoming more picky and more premiumized. And then also the fact that it's just the marketplace is so crowded that it's difficult to differentiate yourself. So which is where we come in. And it's also difficult to get capital in order to keep scaling up because of our lending system right now is very tight.
I definitely see a lot of local, I think a lot of brewers especially are concentrating on their local push. It's becoming more of this localized community. As we know, compared to spirits and wine, beer doesn't travel as well. It doesn't stay fresh as well compared to, a 37-year aged, Scotch in in whatever barrel. That's not how it happens with brews. They want to package it up right before. So there is this push for more, local events. And it's something that I'm keeping in mind as we grow. How can we cater to the more local crowd to then benefit that community and that state? And how do we get philanthropic with our union with brewers? Because as you know, that's also an important, established, need for a lot of brewers to get involved. So those are a few other things that I've noticed this last week.
Well, as we talked about low and, alcohol-free spirits, beer, everything like the alcohol-free or no alcohol or low alcohol industry is starting to explode with new products entering the field as a competition. Is that going to be a separate competition? Is Danny Trejo's alcohol-free tequila going up against the next mezcal?
No, they're all part of the same competition, but they're in different categories. So we have, because we get a lot of no and low at this point. So we have, no alcohol, hemp-based RTD. That's its own category. So that all those hemp-based drinks are compared against each other. They're not in the final round to award best in class. They're not against, a seed lip or an athletic brewing.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different innovations happening in the no alcohol space, but they are judged alongside, like at the same day, same competitions as the rest of the spirits and beer and wine, but just under the lens of this is a no alcohol product.
They will be flighted with the same category of their non-alcohol counterparts. So one of our participants this year, and I was meeting with them this week, is Partake Brewing, and they have a number of different non-alcoholic beverages that they wanted to expand into the competition. So I listened to their needs. I added some categories because, as of last year, it was a lot smaller. At the GABF this year, I mean, tonight when I get off of this podcast with you guys, I'm going to walk the non-alcoholic, and there's about 18 gluten-free breweries that are serving. So it's growing, and people want it.
Yeah, we had Ted Fleming on, I believe 2 years ago from Partake, and it was a great conversation talking about non-alcoholic beer. And we also had, and Wendy, you might need to help me with this, but a gluten-free brewery. I keep wanting to say Breaking Bad, but that's obviously a TV show.
Otherwise,
Brian,
Howard Bailey.
I'm sorry, Breakside or no, Breakside's up in, no, that's Brickside.
Revolution.
I'll look it
maybe?
up. I actually have some in my cabinet downstairs because I kept buying it. I liked it.
But when we talked to them, obviously they explained to be gluten-free, because you have to call yourself gluten-free, you have to be USDA approved gluten-free, which we do have one of those here in Michigan, Brewery Nix, NYX, go check it out. But then there's also gluten reduced, where you take the type of bacteria that you add to, or I don't know if it's bacteria, but that little thing that you add to your brew, and it kind of eats up all the gluten. So it's great for that 29% that's gluten intolerant and not necessarily the one that's celiac.
Right.
So all these options are great. I did get a chance to go check out the NA tent last year at GABF, which was basically mostly athletic, but I'm glad to see that there was a little bit more this year. The big question that I want to ask, and I think it's because I am the odd person out if you guys don't see us live here at Better on Draft on Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook. You can go check out the video too over on YouTube. You mentioned you're an all-woman industry over there, but as we've talked with Julia Hers, we've talked to Ann Obachan, we've talked to the ladies that ran the Beers Without Beards Festival. Over in on the East Coast. Wendy actually went to that festival.
Had a blast. I love that.
Yeah, I was bummed that they weren't having it this year.
Me too.
What are some of the roadblocks that are getting put up that maybe we as a media organization can help push, or that you as a woman-led part of the industry are pushing to get more women into the finer parts of tasting the beer, tasting the booze, making the booze, making the beer?
Well, I'm just going to, Amanda, do you mind?
I'll speak to the judging part. The fact is that women have been, it's been proven scientifically that women have better palates than men, just biologically, having to take care of your, of newborn infants, helpless infants, that we need to be able to taste and smell danger a little bit more than men. So we have added a lot more women and people of all different diversities into our panel, just not because it makes it's just more representative of the general culture.
I've had some wonderful conversations this week. Another one of our participants, Betsy from Lady Justice, they'll be joining us for our competition this year. I had dinner with her the other night. It's not just women, it's minority, it's trans, gay. It's not that these groups don't want to drink. It's just historically, like many other things in life, it's been very male forward. Last year, when I looked at our winner circle, and I put together our first beer competition last year, and I did it in a very short amount of time, so it's going to be very different this year because I've been spending the majority of the year on it. I noticed that it was very monochromatic. It was men, they were white and with beards. I love men and I love all men with beards. That's not it at all. It's just that as a company, we are used to representing a diverse group. We are used to representing over 40 countries from around the world. That is our model. We have color. We have ethnicities. We have flavor steeped in tradition from families. I just saw, last year I said, I don't like that. And I want to make it more in line with what we do as a company as a whole and who we represent. So this year I have been talking a lot about and talking to many people at the GABF, many women. I've been going up to all their booths saying, we want more women. And there are a lot more women brewers today than ever before. I came from the Telluride Blues and Brews Festival. I talked to a number of different women and run brewers there. I've talked to a number of veteran owned brewers and breweries here at the GABF. And then also I've been in contact with the Black Brewers Guild, because that is another underrepresented group. And so there are wonderful beers, and it's sad that, only, of the 100%, and let's say there's 1% that are women and minority, that's not well represented. So I am actively trying to get more participants from all of the groups this year than any other time before.
All right, we are going to be winding down here. It's been 45 minutes, almost an hour, if you can believe that already. So we want to make sure we are respectful of your time. Continuing the conversation, 2023, you have a competition this year. Paint us a picture. What are we going to see? What's going to be new? What's exciting you about the upcoming beer competition?
What's going to be new is that it will be bigger. Like I said, last year, I only had a couple months to put together. And so it was small and mighty, like myself. This year it will be, we will have, as I said, more representation from every different ethnicity group. That's one of the things that I've been focusing on. We will have a robust, judging panel consisting of all the things that we earlier discussed to represent not just the brewer, but the consumer. We will be holding it this year at the same time as our San Francisco International Wine Competition. It will be in an adjacent ballroom. So that will be exciting because there'll be a very big turnout of some of the best judges from around the world for both wine and beer. And I think what I'm mostly looking forward to, and this is something that I actually texted Amanda earlier, that we're going to have a talk next week. I'm really focusing on how I want to meld with, more this year with our social media into with the wine and the spirits, and how we're going to really bring our winners to the forefront, so they have the opportunity to reach those consumers that they're looking for. So again, this is our second annual competition. It is not I haven't been doing this for 23 years like the spirits and wine, but we have the backing of this established system. So I'm just excited to see what happens this year after all of my hard work and all of the work we've been doing as a company.
Well, we do have one question from the chat that I want to make sure gets asked from our Twitch channel. In 2022, you had 5 beer categories. How many categories are planned for 2023? And will one of them be a barrel-aged category?
We actually had many more than 5. I think what was written up in Forbes as the best in class or best in show, we only wrote up 5, but we had plenty more categories. We are going to be having a much different strategic plan in our writing and how we will be representing all of our winners. This year, I'd have to look, but we're up to, I think we're over, 50 different categories. And I've been saying to anyone I reach out to, please, if there's a category missing, let me know and I will discuss it and gladly add it. Again, I'd have to look to see where we are. I've added probably 10 categories in the non-alcoholic section already in the last couple of weeks. And I've added 5 more categories from the request of participants. So I'm happy to add any more that you wish.
Where are flavored malt beverages fitting in? Is that going to be in the beer competition, or is that going to be in the RTD competition, like your Henry's hard soda type of beverage?
I'm not sure yet. What do you think?
Amanda, you got to unmute yourself.
I you know what? It really depends on how the producer wants to be marketed. So if they are in the RTD category, if they want to be considered an RTD and not a beer or whatever, they would submit to the RTD, which is a different competition and at a different time.
All right. As we begin to close out, we, myself and Wendy, are going to ask you a final question and then give you the opportunity to pitch all of our brewing fans who work for breweries that want to possibly compete, because they could still get in their application and enter the competition. Wendy, what is your final question for Gina and Amanda here? Wendy, you're muted.
Like I'm brand new. So I have to say it's been a pleasure talking with you ladies. You definitely have done your research, and it literally has been fascinating chatting with you. My question is, though, with the access to all of the different beer that you have, is there one or even 2 beers that really just stand out to you that you think, man, I wish I could get that again?
Yes. I'm not, I feel like maybe it's not fair for me to mention a couple of my favorites that just because I don't know if this is the right platform to just throw out some of my favorites. I live in Asheville, North Carolina, and I am a huge advocate for our local brew scene. If you haven't been to Asheville, it's phenomenal. And I can just rattle off 10 of my favorites. But
I would say from last year, I was very surprised by one, which was called, I think, a blueberry lemonade from Connecticut Brewing
Connecticut Valley
Company.
Brewing.
It was delightful. And I'm not a taster. I'm not a judge. I'm just talking about personal preference. It was amazing and extremely surprising, and actually did extremely well in the competition.
Yeah, they
Awesome.
did do well.
I think Wendy, as she mentioned, it's great. I've been to Asheville as well. I've definitely taken a nice stumble around the downtown area. Missed the opportunity to go to the bigger breweries to do tours over at Sierra Nevada, New Belgium. But ending at White Labs was easily the best decision I've ever made in my life. The food is great, and the beer, being able to try like a few different, for me, as everybody knows that's a fan of the show, I'm a huge alt beer fan. Probably told this specific story 100 times, but when I went there, they had 3 alt beers on tap, which is a beer you do not find on tap, let alone 3. And I was basically in heaven. Sad it was at the end, because I was definitely many beers in, but my final question is a little bit more personal. This is going to start with Gina, then we'll go to Amanda. Gina,
Yes.
You walk into a house party.
Yes.
What is the best beer game you're good at? Is it beer pong? Is it flip cup? What are you going straight towards when you walk into a house party?
Personally, I go straight towards beer pong. We don't have a lot of time to tell a story, but I won a dying goldfish for my children in a pong like beer game at the state fair. The fish then turned out to be more of like the koi family, and for 2 years this thing grew to like this size, to the point where I needed a 100-gallon tank, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. I had to go on Facebook, and there was a group that rescued goldfish from people who didn't realize how big goldfish could be. So I had to take it like an hour and a half away so someone could put it in their pond. So I'm pretty stellar at the pong.
My parents had that happen.
I also love shuffleboard, but pong specifically for I like all the games, guys.
I'd go beer pong as well. I even play it with my kids. I have them. We put some different like things in the cups, like ketchup or mustard or hot sauce or an Oreo, so that if you get it in one of those, but you don't know what it is, if it's a beer, the adult drinks it. But if it's a ketchup, you got to eat it. So it's a new form of beer pong for the whole family.
I feel like you could have easily put that on TikTok and got 1 million followers
I
overnight.
think I might do it
Seriously.
right now.
That
I'm about
just
to go follow you.
blows my mind. Do you ladies do so we got the San Francisco Spirits, we got Singapore, we got New York. Where else around the US are the competitions?
We are just in New York and San Francisco for now for the competitions. We're going to have events all over the country eventually. But our next competitions will be satellites for the Spirits competition, which will be in Berlin and possibly in Mexico, to concentrate on European entries and Mexican craft spirits.
All right, perfect. One of
And
you,
also,
let's
that our trade show, I think, will be in Miami this year, Amanda, in October, the Top Shelf. So that's going to be a huge one as well.
great city to have it in for sure. Let's get the rundown. Oh, I'm hearing some notifications. It's time to go. Let's get a rundown. Where can we find? Where can we apply?
Go to www.tastingalliance.com. Follow us on social media. If you're interested in spirits, we've got a fantastic account. We've got great giveaways every month. We are at SFW Spirits Comp. For wine, we're at SFINTL Wine Comp. And for the beer competition, oh, hey now. For the beer, this is our website. So you can shop for winners here for all the different kinds of categories. We've got featured articles. Go to blog, Gina.
Yeah, I would. So I'm not handling.
Oh, okay. So here are some featured articles that we publish with highlighting some of the winners. But there's also, as you go down, there's more like special craft articles on different features, and then also some of our stuff that's been in Forbes and Men's Journal, Maxim. And then these things are shoppable. And so please apply, www.thetastingalliance.com. If you go under competitions, you'll see the beer competition, and you can just enter at the entry portal.
And I just want to throw out there, so, to everyone who signed up last year, I'm very grateful. It was our first ever competition, and there were a few bumps in the road. I took the majority of the first 6 months of the year, streamlining and processing a lot of our wins from last year and figuring out what to do for this year. We are a well-oiled machine this year. We are ready for our second. We are excited. We want you to join us. We would love you to try us. See what happens, even if it's just a skew. We've been working very hard. So and
if you have any questions, Gina is available 24 hours a day. Her number is 310. No, I'm just kidding. She will answer any questions you want, and maybe have a FaceTime beer with you.
Yeah, I am very grateful for the time, Ken, Wendy. This was my first podcast. I'm just very thankful for making it so easy and comfortable. And you guys are great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Go visit them. Go enter your beers. Get rated. My name is Ken for Wendy for the Tasting Alliance. This is Better on Draft. And no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's Better on Draft. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.